We will be doing a very similar tracking exercise to what we just did in Premiere, but this time in DaVinci. And you go about it quite differently in terms of setting up, but then once you get going, it's quite similar to Premiere. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, we're going to take again the image of the red balloon and put it onto this nighttime forest image. So we're going to drop it on there. And then we want to take a little bit of that red balloon. I'd say maybe from around there. That is our in point. Just to about there. And we drop that onto the timeline. So we need to expand this a little bit. We want that a little bit longer there. Take off the soundtrack. Okay, so you want your cursor pretty well right at the beginning there. And what you want to do is go into color. We'll find this box here, and what we need to do is go into this little button here. You go into the keying. The first thing we need to do is put a new node in here. This is a node that we could use for color or something else, so we'll create a new node. So it would be either Option or Alt S. Then you get a new node, and that's the node that we want to work with. That's where we'll apply the mask. So what we need here is we have to actually create another alpha connector. So you just connect on this and it says add alpha output. And then you stretch this along and you connect it. And what that will do will allow you to get rid of everything around the actual mask. Okay, so there's several different masks you can use. You could just use the pen tool, but in this case we're going to start with this is the ellipse tool. And then you can shrink this to fit. I want to shrink it on there, and you don't actually want the feathering there. You can move it a little bit up and down. You can see this little ring here. When you move it, you get rid of a little bit of the feathering. Okay. Now what you need to do, there's another little box here, and you click that, and then you get, this is the tracking box. And what you want to do, and then you don't want to have the 3D perspective. You could keep the rotate in there, but you don't really need it. But you want the zoom so it gets wider and smaller as it goes along. Because again, you bring this right back to the first frame. And you could do it either frame by frame, or you could do it with clip. And you just click play. And it will follow that balloon around. Okay, that's the first one. Now, you can actually have a look at that if you just go into the regular editing. It nicely follows along very much like it did in Premiere. Okay, one thing I'll show you how to do is to put a shadow under that balloon so it really looks like it's floating over something. And I'm going to do that over a different landscape. So the first thing we have to do is, there's our video, we remove this landscape here and replace it with something where you could see the shadow a lot easier, and that would be this beach here. And we could make it a little bit larger here. Now the first thing that I want to do is I just want to lower this a little bit, the balloon, so that it's closer to the sand so you can see the shadow. So you just take the position of it and you drop it a little bit, and so that wherever the balloon dips the lowest, like perhaps right there, it'll be close to a shadow. Okay, that's pretty easy. Now we raise this up, maybe shrink this a little bit, make a copy of that. So Command C and then Command V. And then what you want to do again is flip it. So you have a copy of it there. And then perhaps raise it up a little bit so that you'll have a shadow just under that balloon. And you see it'll track along nicely. Or maybe make it even a little bit lower. So there. Okay, now what you have to do is you need to take that one. Always make sure to highlight it. Unhook these and then flatten it. And then once you flatten it, you're still going to have to perhaps move it around a little bit. You just drag this along. Make sure it floats underneath. There you go. And if you want to make it a tiny bit bigger or smaller. Okay, next thing you need to do is desaturate it. So I found that doing several of these things helps when you drag it out a little bit here. And now you go into color and you completely desaturate it. And the other thing that you want to do is you want to soften it so it looks more like a shadow. Now you go back into the editing and you drop it right underneath again, and there you see it looks a little bit like shadow. And then what you could do is with the opacity drop it down a little bit. Now one thing you could do, and you have a little bit of a light in there, thing that you can do if you want to get rid of that shiny bit in there, and it's really quite easy, is again you have to move this out from under there because for some reason it doesn't seem to work when it's sandwiched. You can't quite see this, but you just need to know what to do. Is you open the color again, and the contrast you just simply bring it down to quite low. Maybe you can even bring it down to about 105.14. We'll go back to here, then you drag this under and you'll see most of that contrast is gone. So here you can see the balloon bouncing around and it's got that shadow underneath it.